Welcome to this webinar on how much is the Employment Tribunal worth. I'm John Sprack, and perhaps I could just say by way of introduction that this is an important topic which runs across employment law practice. It is important, for example, right at the beginning, in determining the size of the case which confronts you, whether you're for the potential claimant or the respondent, to see just how much the case is likely to be worth in very broad terms. Then it becomes increasingly important as you get to the point where you're thinking about possible negotiation or a settlement, if that's the way that you or your client is inclined. And clearly at that point, you need to have quite an accurate estimate of how much the claim is worth. And then you get to the point where if the claim goes ahead and there is a hearing, you get to the remedies hearing of actually conducting the remedies hearing and arguing for whichever side you're for. And what I found, my experience as an employment judge back in those days, was that this was often an element of the case which was not pursued with the sort of vigor and rigor that you would expect, that having slugged the whole matter out on liabilities, the representatives of claimant and respondent would just put forward a fairly limp indication of the kind of things that they thought that one should be finding for them. And that was quite disappointing because there are very often a number of important points which need to be resolved. So that's just by way of introduction. If I now move to the agenda, to the matters which I'm aiming to cover within this webinar, I'm going to begin by looking at unfair dismissal. And the first topic in unfair dismissal to look at is re-employment, either reinstatement or re-engagement. I'll then move on to the relatively simple area of the basic award, passing on to the more complex compensatory award and the deductions and adjustments which take place within the compensatory award. After that, the topic of recoupment and how that is likely to affect the award and how also it has some impact on negotiations for settlement. That will be the unfair dismissal portion of what I have to say. I'll then move on to discrimination, dealing with injury to feelings, with interest, with joint and several liability, and then finally taxation, which affects both unfair dismissal, of course, and discrimination. And we'll look at that point.